He's a Democrat on the House Intelligence Committee. Congressman, thanks for joining us.
You're welcome.
So what's your immediate reaction to this report we just got from Jim Sciutto?
Well, I think what I would say, Wolf, is that tomorrow Time Magazine will be announcing its Person of the Year award. And if they had a bad idea of the year award, this would get my nomination. This idea is unquestionably, inarguably, absolutely, categorically, unequivocally unconstitutional on its face.
All right, so you hate this idea. So, and they're saying it's not going anywhere. Let's see. But apparently it was pitched, according to the information that Jim Sciutto and others are getting. Let's get to some other issues in the Russia investigation right now, Congressman. The lawyer for Rick Gates, he was indicted along with Paul Manafort. Paul Manafort, the former chairman of the Trump campaign. The lawyer saying that in court yesterday, federal prosecutors have told them that more charges could be coming. So what does that tell you?
Well, no surprise here, Wolf. I knew the instant that General Flynn accepted the plea bargain deal that it was a predicate to additional indictments and charges. I'm not surprised at all either with respect to Rick Gates, nor what I will predict here and now, which is that other people will be indicted and probably in the not too distant future.
Apparently the lawyer was also suggesting that more charges against Rick Gates could be coming forward. Apparently, this is what legal experts suggest, to squeeze him more into pleading guilty, cooperating, and going along with the government's investigation.
The squeeze is on, Wolf. That's clearly what this is about. This is classic textbook definition of how smart prosecutors and special counsels pursue their jobs. It started with Paul Manafort and Rick Gates and George Papadopoulos, and then went on to General Flynn, and they're moving up the food chain. And as I've said on your network before, they're one thin membrane away from the President of the United States. They are, in fact, in the White House. They're interviewing employees in the White House. They have now a convicted felon, for all practical purposes, in General Flynn, who is the National Security Advisor, inarguably the highest security post in this nation. So there's no surprise here.
So you're right. You're right. Once he pleaded guilty, he became a convicted felon right away. He no longer can go out and buy a gun, can no longer vote. He is already a convicted felon. Your committee will be interviewing Donald Trump Jr. tomorrow. What questions do you have for him?
Well, if you know, we neither confirm nor deny the witnesses that have been in or will be in. I acknowledge that open sources indicate that Mr. Trump Jr. will be in, and I think the questions that I would have for him are the same as anybody else. And stop any person on the street and ask what they would like to know from Donald Trump Jr., and they're going to say they want to know more about that June meeting last year that took place in the Trump Tower, and they're going to want to know more about his communication with WikiLeaks, and on and on and on. What did he know, and when did he know it?
Lots of questions I'm sure you'll have for him. President Trump's lawyer, private lawyer, Jay Sekulow, told our Jeffrey Toobin in an article in the New Yorker magazine, and I'm reading it now, let me put it up on the screen, for something to be a crime, there has to be a statute that you claim is being violated. This is not a statute. There is not a statute that refers to criminal collusion. There is no crime of collusion. Congressman, do you agree?
So this is the same administration that Fast Rewind last January said the entire issue and allegation that Russia interfered in our election was a hoax and that it was a witch hunt. There aren't very many people maintaining that at this point. This is the same administration that for the longest period of time, and in fact the president said it as late as last week, no collusion, that is now saying, oh, but collusion's not a crime. The fact of the matter is there's so much smoke you can't see the hand in front of your face.
Well, have you seen actual evidence, Congressman, of collusion between the Trump campaign and the Russians?
See remarks above, Wolf. What we have learned and discussed in the privacy of the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence cannot be revealed until a later date.
So does that mean the answer is yes? You don't want to say. All right, let's move on to another sensitive issue. Do you buy the argument put out by the president's personal lawyer yesterday that the president cannot obstruct justice because he's the highest law enforcement officer in the country?
No. In fact, his assertion thusly kind of reminded me, frankly, of when President Trump said on the Access Hollywood tape, when you're a star, you can get away with it, you can do anything. That wasn't true then, and what his lawyer is saying now is not true. The president can be, in fact, subject to obstruction of justice charges. He is not above the law. And, oh, by the way, Mr. President, It's also against the law to engage in sexual assault or child molestation.
We'll get to that a little bit later. Stand by. But I want to get to the top Democrat on the Senate Judiciary Committee, Senator Dianne Feinstein. She's expressed concern that there's a subtle effort, her words, subtle effort, by the chairman of her committee, Republican Senator Chuck Grassley, not to go deeply into the Russia investigation. Do you share that same concern about Republicans on your committee, the House Intelligence Committee?
Well, there have been times when I wish they could be a little bit more enthusiastic about this, but at the end of the day, I'm confident that we're going to get at the truth. I think, frankly, most of the action here is in Director Mueller's office, and I think thus far he's demonstrated that he's pursuing this with the same level of professionalism that he always does. And I actually think the roles of the Senate Intelligence Committee and the House Intelligence Committee are contributing to this, irrespective of the varied degrees of enthusiasm. But I think one thing's really important to say here, Wolf, and that is we shouldn't paint all Republicans with the same brush. There are some who are deeply concerned about our country and the health of our civic well-being as a consequence of Russian interference, and so they're not all alike.
Congressman, stand by. There's more breaking news I want to review with you. We'll take a quick break, resume the interview right after this.
This is electricity.